What's up, everyone? Welcome to a early morning Pats chat. I'm Doug Kyed, joined as always by Michael Hurley. Michael, how are you doing on this Tuesday morning, 2 days before the 2025 NFL Draft?
I can't believe it's finally here. It's this draft we've talked about for what 75, 80 weeks it feels. So we're
Years,
finally
weeks,
there.
months. Yeah.
I do want to give a quick shout out to our new sponsor. We are now sponsored by coffee. So shout out to the beans that you pour hot water through. It's amazing. What technology?
You know, I think Felger and Maz is actually sponsored by Celsius. They should give us a
I think
call too, because
I think the whole sports hub, yeah.
I'm kind of healthy in the morning. I drink the orange Celsius. I don't go for like the Cosmic Blast or whatever some of the other ones are. I feel like I'm drinking orange juice in the morning if I drink an orange Celsius.
You get a lot of vitamins there. I also want to shout out to our other sponsor, which I'm wearing their gear. It's Canny Bee Lake Park.
There we
So
go.
we are now fully sponsored. They're paying us a lot of money for this podcast.
You know what? This does have 70% of your vitamin C intake for the day. 120% of vitamin B6, 250% of vitamin B12. So
That
this is
seems like too much. Do we need
basically a health
250?
drink.
Do you need 250 of B6?
I personally do. I
Yeah.
need the 250.
What
Some
if you-
people might only need 100, but
What if you suck down two of those puppies before lunch and you got 500% of your daily value in B6? That feels like an overkill, but what do I know?
you're probably just peeing it out anyway. But
Hey, can I tell you something?
I think it's the B12 actually. Yeah.
Oh, my
Yes,
bad.
yes,
Well, B6
yes.
becomes B12 when you have 200%. So it's just the
True.
math.
Yeah.
I had an epiphany about this draft. Okay. Because I'm trying to scrape together some sort of take last night. Like, what are we gonna do about this draft? And I'm thinking, right? And I think because I've been more open to Genty at 4 than maybe you or someone else, because
Sure.
taking a running back is objectively stupid at 4. But I look back to 2 years ago, right?
Yep.
And Bijan Robinson goes 8th to the Falcons, and then Peter Skoronski goes 11th to the Titans. He's a mediocre guard, former tackle. And then at 12, Jahmyr Gibbs goes to the Lions. And I'm looking at the two running backs, right? And people say this is a deep running draft class, blah, blah, blah. But there's clearly Genty and everyone else.
Right.
And we look at this and we say, well, Gibbs is better than Robinson, right? Like, Gibbs has been more impactful. He's helped more wins. He's played in the playoffs. He is a better running back than Bijan Robinson. And I say the program and the organization is going to be more important than this pick, which is to
Right.
say, and right after Bijan Robinson was Jalen Carter, who just won a Super Bowl with the
Right.
Eagles. And it's just like the Falcons stink. They might always stink. There was one year they didn't stink, and then after the midway point of the third quarter of the Super Bowl, they started to stink again. That is an organization that is not nurturing to success. So I've kind of changed because I look at that Skoronski pick, right? And that feels like a Will Campbell type pick.
Right.
And you make that pick because you need it. You're terrible at left tackle, blah, blah, blah. What if you can get a highly talented player and build a program that nurtures growth, development, and success over the next 2 years? I'm more open to a skill player than I probably would be many other years because of A, the lack of overall talent, and B, the more important needs, which is Vrabel building culture, team, whatever you want to call it.
So I don't hate it. I do think that like
Wow.
if you're gonna come out of this class with the best, like who's the best available player at 4, it probably is Genty, right? Like that's probably where everyone's at. It's not the most premium position. Neither's tight end with Tyler Warren. And I was even just as you were speaking, I was listening to every word, but as you were speaking,
Oh,
I was
yeah.
looking at the sizes of Bijan Robinson and Jahmyr Gibbs compared to Ashton Genty, because obviously that matters for a running back. Bijan Robinson, you kind of think of as being like a big running back. I think he's only 5'10", 215. Jahmyr Gibbs also doesn't seem like a small guy. He was 5'9", 199 coming out of Alabama. Ashton Genty is 5'8", but 211 pounds. So he's rock solid 5'8". I don't think that the height matters that much for a running back. I think a running back can basically be as good at 5'8" as he can be at 5'9" or 5'10". So the size shouldn't be a determining factor in Ashton Genty. I will say, and this is just me being like an old man at this point, I miss, you're buzzing by the way, I miss when good prospects worked out before the draft. And I know that like they don't have to, but Bijan Robinson was going to be a top 10 pick and he ran a 4.46. Like, and it's like, okay, yeah, that's the speed of a running back you want to take within the top 10. Jahmyr Gibbs probably wasn't going to be a top 15 pick, let's call it. And like maybe the Lions draft him anyway, even without working out. I don't think it hurt that he ran a 4.36 before the draft. I think that probably raised his draft stock a little bit.
Well, it's just funny because, when they drafted Gibbs, the internet does what the internet does and made fun of the Lions. Like, oh my God,
right? Yeah.
A running back. You took a running back at 12, and I mean, they haven't won a Super Bowl, but they've been a very good team since then. So, speaks to unorthodox decision making because, and you had to finish your point. I know, but the player like Lucas Van Ness went after him, Broderick Jones, Will McDonald. Then you had Emmanuel Forbes and Christian Gonzalez. Right. So it's I don't know. They passed up on the receivers that went that year, but it was still an odd pick that has worked for them.
Yeah, it's worked out well, and obviously they haven't won a Super Bowl yet, but like they're well on their way to being in that conversation. They're in that conversation, just haven't hit it. But I don't know. Like, so last year Marvin Harrison Jr. didn't do anything. This year I think Travis Hunter didn't do anything before the draft. Ashton Genty did not do anything before the draft, and now like. It's pretty typical for quarterbacks to not do anything. Even like Lamar Jackson way back in the day didn't run. But for Travis Hunter, sure, it worked out. For Marvin Harrison Jr., I don't know. Could he have gone a little bit earlier? I don't know.
No.
Probably not, I guess. But Ashton Genty, like, if he winds up going 6th overall, I guess like you could look at it and say, yeah, I guess Harrison couldn't have gotten any earlier, went 4th overall, but I don't know. I just miss it. I wish we knew. And I wish that Genty, if Genty had run like a 4.3, wouldn't you be pounding the table even more for the Patriots to draft him?
Possibly. Yeah. I mean, to me, the tape is more important, and I've seen him go.
Yeah.
I've seen him go 1 versus 11. You know, where the entire defense knows he's getting the ball, and they all swarm him. And he still gets 15 yards, and you're like, damn. But I don't know the man. He's probably nice. I don't know. But so I'm not taking up his defense here. But he had 397 touches last year. So I'm kind of like, you know what? You need to rest your body. So he's the only player.
Save the 40.
He had 374 carries last year. So he's the only one I'm like, you know what? Let the muscles recover.
Does that scare you at all?
Yeah, it does. Like, I don't know how the shoulders are, the knees are. Running back is a short-term position. It's not, if you draft a running back 4, he's not going to be a running back for 10 years. You might get, I don't know. I guess Kamara's been around a long time. That's a weird situation.
He's
so I guess
of an outlier in that situation, in that discussion, though.
Yeah, because I look at, like, when we were doing number 4 picks the other day, Ezekiel Elliott was a hit for the Cowboys.
Right.
He lasted, 6 years?
Right.
That was 2016, and Elliott has been sort of washed up for at least 2 years. He's okay, but not a top of the line player. So
well, that's the tough thing is that like it's a one contract position essentially. Like,
you get a second.
You get a second, but you wind up getting a little bit screwed on the second if you're a team. Because like you feel compelled to do it, and then you have to cut the guy a couple of years into it.
That could be the advantage of a first-round pick because you get the extra year.
You do get the extra year.
Do people even play on the 5th year anymore?
No, that's the thing. It's that like after the 3rd year or whatever it is, they're going to want a contract, which I don't blame them for.
Right.
But then, as I said, like you take that guy 4th overall, and you're like, okay, well, we need to sign him to a second contract.
Yeah, I guess the short version. I like to make the long version before I make the short version of my point, which is let's say the Patriots take Ashton Genty at number 4. And it doesn't pan out. The reason it probably won't pan out is only if the Patriots continue to suck organizationally. Like, I think the player is the talent, and I know the position is not as important as others. But if you draft, I'm into the idea of adding high-level talent. And forcing the Will Campbell pick doesn't seem like the most productive choice. Like, it's fine, but it's not the most conducive to huge steps forward with talent.
So the biggest case I would make for drafting Will Campbell at number 4 overall is that I feel like the Patriots' 2 biggest needs are at offensive tackle and wide receiver. Andrew Callahan and I did a recent piece where we debated what the Patriots' second biggest need was. I said wide receiver. He said edge defender. I think they've kind of done enough on defense this offseason that the defense should be fine. They added Harold Landry. They added Milton Williams. They added Caleb Von Chasen. They've already got Keon White. Stephon Diggs, I look like as hopefully he's your number one wide receiver this year, but he's still a 31-year-old coming off a torn ACL in late October, which we just saw last year that Kendrick Bourne was a 29-year-old coming off a torn ACL in late October, and he didn't return until week 5. So I look at wide receivers being the second biggest need on the team, and there's not a wide receiver to take 4th overall, but there are wide receivers to potentially take either at the end of the first round or early in the second round. So if you get the offensive tackle out of the way at number 4 overall with a bunch of other flawed potential picks there, then you can either trade back up into the first round or sit at 38 and take a wide receiver and hopefully fill that need as well. That being said, I don't think that filling needs is the best draft strategy. So that's the best case for it. And I think the other best case for it is that I actually put my reporter hat on and reached out to a bunch of people around the NFL.
Nerd.
I will say that most of them did believe that Will Campbell can play tackle in the NFL. Maybe it's just who I'm talking to. Maybe they're being optimistic, but they don't necessarily think that length is going to be an issue. They saw him do it at the SEC. One person was like, well, I'd take him at 4, even if he turns into a guard, because you're getting a good guard, which I don't love that argument, but it is what it is. One person I spoke to did say that they wouldn't take Will Campbell at 4 overall, and that they consider Joshua Simmons to be the best offensive tackle in this class. So if you can somehow take Genty at 4 and then trade back up for Joshua Simmons, that seems like a good plan, but I really have no sense of where Simmons is going in the first round. Like, he could go like 12th or 24th, and I really have I would not be surprised by either one. So
did you hear Rappaport yesterday say there could be 3 tackles in the first 8 picks?
So that would be
Banks
Campbell,
and
Membu, and then either Banks or Simmons. Did he say Banks?
He said he was high on Banks, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
And then I think someone might have said there could be 10 tackles in the first round.
10 in the
Someone
first
said
round?
that. I don't know who. I can't quote it, but
was that the 10th ranked tackle in this class?
Hey man, there could be 10 of us in the first round. But I don't know. I go back to last year. Remember, I looked it up.
There was like 17 before the Patriots picked Kyed and Wallace.
I think Kyed and Wallace was the 18th or 19th offensive tackle taken, and he was taken at what?
68th or something like that.
I would have said 70. So yeah, you're ahead of the curve there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's a possibility. I just think on the Campbell at tackle, like when people say he could play and people are down on it.
Yeah.
I get that you want him to be a top 5 at the position if you're drafting him 4th overall. But can a football team be successful with the 14th or 15th best left tackle in the league? Absolutely.
Yes. Right.
It depends on a lot of things.
Right.
Not to go back to ancient history, but I always felt Matt Light was like the 15th best left tackle in the league.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, he was never I don't think he was ever a Pro Bowler.
He might have been, but only because of the fame and the attention, like in 07 probably. Yeah. I think he might have been in 07. But he was never elite at the position, but he was always pretty good. And he's a good comp because he had 33-inch arms. So, like, he also had Tom Brady behind him. And we know at the time when Tom Brady started, he wasn't Tom Brady, but he still was Tom Brady. So it's...
You're talking about Nate Solder, not Matt Light, right? Because
Matt Light.
Nate Solder. Oh, I think... Okay, you said... Matt Light was a Pro Bowler once, yes.
07?
I know, that's what threw me off.
Yeah, I think everyone was a Pro Bowler in 07.
He was a first-team All-Pro in 07, and actually he was a 3-time Pro Bowler.
All right, fair enough. But Pro Bowl, whatever, All-Pro once. He was good. Like, no one was ever like, man, Matt Light's terrible, but he was never perfect. He was never elite. But you had a good system.
I think you accidentally made a better point by saying Nate Solder, though.
I didn't say Nate Solder. You heard Nate Solder.
People in the comments, let us know if you said Nate Solder.
Rewind the tape. I said Matt Light. But that's the point. Like, let's say you draft him, Will Campbell, and he plays tackle, and he's good, not great.
Yep.
That's not terrible.
Right.
it's just that important of a position because we saw what terrible was last year.
Yeah.
All due respect to the nice men that played left tackle, who seemed like all you reporter guys that were there in the locker room all the time. They seemed like really nice people. Like Vidarian Lowe, nice guy. Demontre
Really
Jacobs,
nice.
see a nice guy.
Yep.
So I feel bad, but like it'd be like if you put me at guard. I'm a nice guy. I suck at guard. It's bad planning to have me in there. I'd be a great glue guy, bench guy.
Yeah.
Come on, guys, we got this. But I shouldn't be starting in the NFL. So if you can get a guy that can step in and be okay at tackle, it's not the end of the world.
No, 100%. And whether that person is Matt Light, who was a 3-time Pro Bowler, or Nate Solder, who was never a Pro Bowler, I do think that either one of those guys, as their career panned out, would have been worth the number 4 overall pick in the draft because Nate Solder was never a Pro Bowler, but he won 2 Super Bowls. He was a very good player for the Patriots. And like, yeah, that's essentially what one person says that like, I asked them, do you think Campbell could be a tackle? And they said, yes. The question is to what level? So like, ideally with a 4th overall pick, you would like to get an offensive tackle who has the potential to be a 7-time Pro Bowler and 3-time first team All-Pro and all those types of things. But this isn't that class, unfortunately, where like, I don't think you're taking anyone at 4 overall in this class who you realistically think can be a 7-time Pro Bowler. Like maybe Tyler Warren, Ashton Genty, probably not, just because of the way that running back careers go. I don't think you're necessarily looking at Mason Graham or Jalen Walker being like, these guys are going to be Pro Bowlers every single year. You're looking at a lot of solid players, and Will Campbell is right there with them among a bunch of somewhat flawed, solid players.
Yeah. I did some work myself. I did BST on Friday, and instead of just showing up with my handsome face, the moneymaker, I actually did a little research. And so I looked, based on what we did in this podcast last week, looking at number 4 overall picks.
Right.
And Pro Football Reference adds the draft approximate value. So that is the approximate value added to the team that drafted you.
Right.
And you look at some, going back to 2000, like some of the numbers are ugly. Some of them are great. Like Phil Rivers went 4th and had 149. Granted, the team that drafted him didn't get it, but you get the point. Like, I don't know, DeBrickashaw Ferguson. Do you think of him as a huge hit? He was compared to everyone else. He had a approximate value of 58, but there was a ton of like straight up misses. Like Aaron Curry was a miss. I don't know where you put Kyle Pitts. He has an approximate value of 21. He might be a miss.
He's a miss, in my opinion.
There's actually a great comp. Have you ever in your life thought about Andrew Thomas of the New York Giants?
Unfortunately, I have.
You have. In what
Yes.
in what regard?
He's good. He's not incredible, but he's a good tackle. He's someone that you would be willing to take that early in this class, especially.
So he was someone I honestly probably came across him in my life, but I never spent a minute pondering Andrew Thomas. But he was the 4th overall pick by the Giants in 2020. Yeah. He started 60 games at left tackle.
Yeah.
His approximate value so far is 27. Like, I'm not going to sit here and tell you I've broken down his footwork and his hands and all that, but I know he started 60 games at maybe the hardest position on the field. So that is a good comp. Do you think the Giants regret that pick? Probably not, because he's filled that need.
I think he signed like a big second contract with them. He's had some injury issues the last 2 years, which has been unfortunate. He's only started 16 games over the last 2 years, but he's a starting caliber left tackle who made a second team All-Pro in 2022. If Will Campbell winds up being Andrew Thomas, you're in good shape, I would say.
And then the other tackle taken there recently, Lane Johnson in 2013.
Yeah.
Right tackle, but the Eagles don't regret that one. He's been a rock there for a decade. So what's so funny?
By the way, I was looking at Andrew Thomas and DeBrickashaw Ferguson being like, oh, I wonder if either one of these is like a decent comp for Will Campbell. DeBrickashaw Ferguson had 35.5-inch arms, and Andrew Thomas has 36 1/8 inch arms. So neither one of them the greatest length comp for Will Campbell, but it is what it is.
But yeah, there's a ton of players in there. We went through them. Like AJ Green was a huge hit.
Yeah.
Darren McFadden, sneaky kind of a hit, but like that didn't do much.
I don't think I agree with that.
He was hurt a lot,
he just like
but
kept playing, I feel like. But
yeah, I guess the
like if
approximate
Ashton
value.
Genty turned into Darren McFadden, you'd be like, nah, you know.
Right, right. No, I'm with you. I think he played
He had
6 years for the
2,000-yard
Raiders.
seasons.
Yeah. So I
So
forget how we got there, but that if you want to pass some time
you
and
just
look
wanted
through
to brag
draft.
about how you actually worked, I think is. But it
Well,
was
I
worth
said
doing. It was
if
a
I was
good
still
thought experiment.
writing, if someone still wanted me to write for them, I would have
Yeah.
written, here's a detailed history of the number 4 pick, because
Yeah.
we talked about it last week. Like there's this, and I'm not judging anyone because I'm probably in the same boat. There's this warped expectation. Like you got the number 4 pick, you've got to change the franchise. And it's like, well, I looked it through the last 25 years. It's like a 60% hit rate. So, and even that hit rate varies. Like no one, I don't know, who's the best number 4 pick of the past quarter century? Like Sauce Gardner has a chance, though I didn't love his season last year.
He didn't have the great season, yeah.
I just AJ Green might be, but like Trent Williams. Trent Williams is probably the best of the past 25 years.
Did you? Philip Rivers is one of the past 25 years too, right?
I know. Phil Rivers just enough. People make Hall of Fame cases for Phil Rivers. I'm like, whatever. Like, well,
And
whatever.
I guess that, like a quarterback is a little bit different, but yeah, like Trent Williams, AJ Green, Lane Johnson,
And there's hits
like-
in there. Like,
and then like Andrew Thomas and DeBrickshaw Ferguson are probably like equal-ish, and then Sauce
Right,
Gardner. So
but
yeah,
they're not franchise changers. Like Ezekiel Elliott had a bigger impact than those guys.
right. Yeah, I think that like what you would be looking at is Trent Williams, AJ Green, Lane Johnson. If you could get one of those guys who are like Trent Williams is going to be a Hall of Famer, Lane Johnson might be, AJ Green might not, just because there's like a huge backlog of wide receivers, but like those like Hall of Fame type caliber players.
Well-
but yeah, there's only 3 within the last
Oh.
25 years. Or
In another, to reiterate the point from earlier, the Bears took Cedric Benson in 2005. Did absolutely nothing for the Bears, but then he went to Cincinnati and
went
had
to
3 good
Bengals.
seasons there. So it speaks to just organizational rot, I believe was a word used in recent years. The Bears certainly have had organizational rot for most of their existence. So
right.
Cedric Benson was a good NFL running back.
Yeah.
He couldn't do it for the Bears. So I don't know if you want to use that as a warning sign if you're the Patriots, like if you're not good enough to take a running back now, but I think you have to have the hope and expectation if you're the franchise. Like I don't think Vrabel's sitting around going, well, we suck. We can't support a running back.
I don't think this is a likely scenario, but let's say the Patriots trade for Kolton Miller before Thursday night. Would you then 100% turn around and take Genty?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, I think I probably that might be where I pivot to, or maybe
Yeah.
like, or do you just take Membu and then say like, all right, we've got our left and right tackle for the next 5 to 10 years,
it's not terrible. I mean, Moses is how old?
like 34. He's old. Yeah,
He's
Like,
here for a year.
Yeah, and like maybe Caden Wallace can be the next in line, but you don't fully know that. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of maybes, and
Well,
they went into
that's-
last year with a lot of maybes and it didn't work out.
That was kind of a point I made. I wrote a column this morning actually too.
Shout out to you.
I've been doing a lot of work.
Look at us.
I know, it's pretty crazy. So one of the bigger issues, if you do take Will Campbell, and I understand I'm not the first person making this point, is that currently the top of the left tackle column on a depth chart is just a gigantic question mark. Like you can't even put Vidarian Lowe's name there or Caden Wallace's name there because like you'll get laughed out of the building for doing that. Like you just can't put one of those guys in the top spot.
If they had to play on Sunday, they would have to forfeit.
I mean, I think if they had to play on Sunday, fans would possibly revolt. Like fans would be like, no, this is not a product I'm willing to watch for a second straight year. But if you take Will Campbell, that question mark only really turns into you like writing his name in pencil because you won't know that he can play left tackle until after OTAs, after minicamp, after training camp, after the preseason, maybe not even not until after like week 1 or 2 of the season. So that is tough that like you're making this pick to fill a need and you still don't know for months if that need is actually filled or not.
Well, that's the thing that is strange about it, where it's like, well, if he doesn't work out at tackle, you can slide him to guard. When do you know that?
That's right.
Do you know
I
it
think, yeah.
at minicamp? Like, is it like, oh God, Or do you give him, I mean, he's a rookie. He's going to look bad at times. Do you know it in the preseason?
Right.
And then slide him over for week 1? Do you know it in week 6 when the quarterback's gotten smacked 15 times? It's kind of, it's not as...
That's a great question for Mike Vrabel after they make this pick on Thursday night.
Yeah.
Like,
he's I don't think he's going to entertain it all that much. Like, hey, Mike, how's it going? Nice pick. What if he stinks? What are you going to do?
I think it's a very valid question. I think it's going to be asked, is that like, at what point will you know for sure that he can play left tackle? I understand you're drafting him to hopefully play left tackle, but at what point will you feel comfortable enough to put him out there in week 1, let's say? Or like, at what point do you have to make that decision of what position does this guy play? Because like, yeah, currently you also do have a need at left guard. So,
you have 3 maybes though. You have 3 what ifs at left guard.
I mean, yeah, and like they'll get by, I think, with one of those what ifs, but it's not great that you're sticking a rookie next to a what if. Like, the right side of the line is going to look so much more solid come week 1 than the left side of the line is, because like, yeah, you've got Morgan Moses and Michael Winner. You know what that side looks like. You know what Garrett Bradbury looks like at center. On the left side, it's going to be 2 somewhat question marks there.
I wanted to make a Cole Strange question comparison to be like, isn't this a case of overdrafting someone? But it's like, no, that's a different planet. That one doesn't really register.
I was on Christian Arcan's program last night on WEI, and he's like, how different is this covering a team that picks in the top 5 in the last 2 years versus what it was like in the past? I was like, I mean, when they were drafting 32nd overall, let's call it, like, you legitimately had to prepare for them drafting like 90 different players in that spot. And like, it was never more evident than when they took Cole Strange. Like, Cole Strange was legitimately like probably the 100th ranked player on some teams' draft boards, and they took him in the first round. So it is so much easier to prepare for the first round, at least, only having to really talk about, let's call it like 4 or 5 guys.
One of the most clicked on read stories I ever wrote was April 24th, 2020. The headline was, Bill Belichick's pick of Lenore Ryan's Kyle Duggar is maybe the most Bill Belichick moment of all time, because, Doug, I was covering the draft.
Yeah.
And I think it was, what's his name? Jordan Schultz. Mm-hmm. He might have had it first. No, he had Cole Strange first. Mm. And I was like, is this man pranking the world right now? But so I don't remember the first time I saw the Duggar pick. But it might have been on TV. Like, there might not have been a tweet that spoiled it. Yeah. And they said, Kyle Duggar from Lenore Ryan. And I was like, you've made that college up. Like, UT Chattanooga, yeah, whatever. Like, we've heard of it over the course of time. I had never in my life heard of Lenore Ryan.
Right.
And, you know, that one worked out, obviously, more than the UT Chattanooga pick. But it was
kind of like for Kyle Duggar. And like you said, the pick has been actually fine. Like, he has been worth a second-round pick. Mm-hmm. He played, I think, 6 years of college, too.
He was like 24, wasn't he?
Like, playing for 6 years at Lenore Ryan and never getting that call from like Alabama or something to be like, hey, would you want to transfer to our school? You're pretty good at football. Is in itself, like, I guess, an indictment on college sports, but also like, it's a risky pick at that point. If you're taking a career D2, a 6-year career, is Lenore Ryan D2 or FCS?
D2, I want to say. I'm pretty sure it's D2.
Yeah, I think it's D2. So yeah, like, taking a 6-year career D2 player who never transferred up it's a risk, and it paid off for Bill Belichick.
So we tend to take meandering side journeys. So I tweeted that night, as soon as the pick was made, I've watched every single Lenore Ryan football game for the past 15 years and am available for interviews. No one took me up on that.
Oh, wow.
But I did do some research that year. Ready? Yeah. Lenore Ryan beat St. Augustine 68-7 in 2019. Then they beat Virginia Union in Newberry and destroyed Mars Hill 56-28. They beat UVA Wise 63-6, handled Tusculum and Carson Newman, and beat Catawba 49-3, but then lost to West Florida in the regional finals. So I don't even know why I shared any of that, other than it's kind of funny that you're right. We had there's not having a clue, and then there's not having a clue, and we really had no clue.
Yeah, and like Kyle Duggar, admittedly, not to throw you under the bus, like
Yeah, he was at the Senior Bowl.
he was on my radar that year. Like he was a
Not at
second, third. He was like a thirdish round pick, I think.
not at whatever.
37 overall was high. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then Cole Strange at 29. Cole Strange was not on my radar. I'll say that.
Cole Strange was not on my radar. The other one, I admitted this last night, when they drafted Isaiah Wynn in 2018, he was like a name I had heard of, but I was not even remotely prepared for them to take Isaiah Wynn because I think he was listed on almost every single draft guide as a guard, and
Yeah.
guard was just not even remotely a need for them because they had
Tooney and
Joe
Mason.
Tooney and Shaq Mason. So then when they took Isaiah Wynn, it was like, whoa, okay. But I mean, for all of the Will Campbell haters, of which I don't think I'm one of them, but I can understand the hesitation.
We are Will Campbell Matters. We're like meh.
Yeah. Isaiah Wynn played left tackle on some good teams for a while. So like it can be done. So we'll see. But
I want to
Isaiah
go.
Wynn also longer than Will Campbell.
I want to do this for you because it's draft week. We can redo, and nothing is easier in the world than going back and redrafting based on retrospect.
Sure.
I love looking at NBA drafts from like 15 years ago, like idiots. But all right, these are some names that went off the board. Okay, in the 20s of the 2018 draft: Billy Price, Rashawn Evans, Isaiah Wynn, DJ Moore, Hayden Hurst, Calvin Ridley, Rashad Penny, Terrell Edmonds, Taven Bryan, Mike Hughes, Sony Michel, Lamar Jackson. It's just like, oh, guys, that is a third of the league just being like, he's too small, he's too skinny, whatever it might have been. Not
It really
the best.
is crazy.
That's a ton of teams all in the 20s. And then the Ravens traded up, right?
I believe so. I won't guarantee that.
Yes.
But like,
They traded the 52nd and 125th pick to go into the second, and they got a fourth in there too.
it is pretty wild that like Win was fine. But like DJ Moore, Calvin Ridley, or Lamar Jackson in that spot. I guess like you can't really say it about Ridley though, because
Yeah.
how many years did he last in Atlanta before he had the gambling thing? But missing out on DJ Moore a pick later is tough. And yeah, Lamar Jackson, that really is
Crazy. So
quite
we're going to do the
huge.
draft, and we're going to overreact and freak out. And inevitably, Lamar Jackson will go 32nd, and we'll all say, whoops.
Yeah. This year I've been really high on younger prospects and prospects who peaked or like didn't peak necessarily, but like were immediate contributors on their college teams. If I'm the Patriots, I'm taking the highest upside guys possible. And those are guys who like, if you're a wide receiver, I want you to have had like at least 400 yards in your freshman season. And I want you to be like 20 to 21 years old right now.
Yeah.
I think that those are the players, and I know that's a popular opinion, but those are the players I want the Patriots to be aiming for this year. Like high recruits, guys who played right away, guys who, and obviously those players who are that good go very early. But I guess like Will Campbell kind of qualifies. He was a 3-year starter at LSU, right? He started right away. So,
And Vrabel said that too recently. I think last week when he talked, it was just like production. And I just think that sometimes gets overlooked in the measurables and the testing.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not in the testing anymore because no one works out. But if you have all the tools but haven't produced,
right.
some teams are inevitably going to get sucked in. But it's like maybe just go for the guys that can catch the ball. Because I always think like everyone would love to have Calvin Johnson, right? But there's one Calvin Johnson per generation.
Right.
But like, have you ever stood next to Antonio Brown?
Right. Yeah.
He is my size, in much better
I
shape.
have, by the way. Yeah.
Yeah, he's like 5'10" at
Yeah.
tallest. He's in great shape. Don't get me wrong, but like you look at him, and you learn and realize that there are people that are really good at just catching the ball no matter what.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, he's not 6'4", 230,
Right.
but you can't cover it. So like production outweighs size and speed and all that sometimes. If you have that, I mean, no, I don't think Antonio Brown's in this draft, but you know what I mean.
Right. No, absolutely. And like that's one thing where people talk about wide receivers, obviously, in this year's class, because that is, in my opinion, the Patriots' second biggest need. But like Matthew Golden is very highly ranked. He's most people's number 2 wide receiver. Matthew Golden never had a 1,000-yard season in college. He played 16 games last year for Texas, had 987 yards and 9 touchdowns. So, like, yeah, he came 13 yards away from a 1,000-yard season, but, like, that concerns me a little bit that he's a guy who ran a 4.29, never necessarily showed that in school, only had 987 yards as his peak in college despite playing 16 games as his junior season. I don't know. There's like a lack of production there that scares you a little bit. Whereas a guy like Luther Burden, for example, played 13 games in 2023 and had 1,200 yards as a sophomore, as like a 19-year-old. Mecca Ibuka had 2,000-yard seasons in college. I don't know. Like, yeah, production does matter at a certain point.
Yeah. How far down the list, let's say they go Will Campbell at 4, and then they're sitting there in the 30s. How high do you think they have to go to get one of those top, I don't know, 6 or 8? Like how I look at a couple of years ago, there was no receivers taken till 20, and then 4 went in a row. So it's like it's going to be one of those things
again this year. Like, I don't know. I really don't know how high Ted McMillan winds up going. I think you could probably get, I don't know. It feels like Ibuka, who's the 3rd wide receiver in this class, will probably go in the early 20s. And that's pretty high for the Patriots to trade up to.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you can do it with only a 2nd and 3rd round pick. But he's the guy that I would probably, he's one of the ones that I'm interested in the most because he was like a 5-star recruit, produced right away. He's got good speed, really smart. I think his quarterback, Will Howard, was saying that like he would belong in like a quarterback room. That's how well he knows the offenses. That's how smart he is. But I like Luther Burden. Like I said, he had some early production. The one, like the other guy who you talk about production, Jaden Higgins, he's everyone's favorite because he's 6'4", 214, runs like a 4.4 40. He did produce his final year at Iowa State. He had 1,100 yards and 9 touchdowns. But he was also kind of a late bloomer. Like he started off his college career at Eastern Kentucky. And I think that was because he played like a lot of basketball in high school, didn't necessarily focus on football. But that does scare you a little bit, taking a guy that early who like didn't like jump off the high school football field. You know what I mean? Like, isn't that a little bit concerning?
A little. I mean, he didn't have a 1,000-yard season in 2023, but he had 983 yards. Though.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
He had a 90.3 PFF grade last year, which is
he's very good. He only had 7 drops in his college career, which is very low. Like basically averaged like less than 2 per year. I like Jaden Higgins a lot, but like he's not necessarily what you're talking about. Yeah.
Did you know Aaron Dobson 0 drops in college? Did you know that?
I actually think that was like proven to not be true.
Well. It was pre-internet back in 2013. We didn't have the World Wide Web back then.
No, that's very true. But I don't know. Yeah, I think that if they take a wide receiver, I'm looking at Dan Brugler's draft guide right now. If they take one of the top 9 wide receivers, I'm feeling pretty good about it. So that would be Teteroa McMillan, Matthew Golden, Luther Burden. Those are his top 3.
Okay.
Emeka Ibuka is number 4. Jalen Noel, he's like a very undersized slot receiver. Wouldn't love that pick. I think he's a very good player, but I don't think they necessarily are in the market for another slot receiver right now.
The PFF has him as their 12th receiver.
Okay. Then you've got Jaden Higgins. We were just talking about him. Big, strong, X-receiver type. Jalen Royals is number 7. He had like 1,000 yards in 7 games last season, which I don't even know how that happens. And then Trey Harris is number 8. He had 1,000 yards in like 8 games last season. So those guys are both pretty good. Injury concerns, but whatever. And then Jack Besh is the number 9 receiver. A lot of people love him. So I haven't watched him to the same degree that everyone else has. The one thing that would scare me a little bit about Jack Besh, and I think that he could be a very good player, is that he never ran a 40, which a little concerning, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're buzzing again, by the way. I know you're done. No, you're not. But I don't know.
What are we going to do? What are we going to do?
If you're the ninth ranked receiver in the class, he participated in the Senior Bowl, so he was healthy enough. It's a little bit concerning if you're not running your 40, right?
And you're a big 40 guy.
I am.
So that's disrespectful to the Dougs of the world.
It's really true. He did a vertical jump, a broad jump, a short shuttle, and a 3-cone. Never did the 40.
Can I tell you
So
this
like,
though?
so if a guy doesn't run a 40, you're probably assuming he's like a 4.6 guy, right?
Um, you got to assume that, yeah.
Yeah.
So we talked about moving up and whether like the high 20s.
Yeah.
I suck at high and low, like 20, 21, 22. Do you call that high 20s because you're
Yes.
toward the
It
top of the
doesn't make
draft?
sense, but yes, that's trading into the high 20s. Yeah.
Very complicated. So
It is. It really, truly is.
yeah,
It's dumb, like, because
it's a lower number.
at it as a list. You're
Yeah.
not looking at it as a number.
This is officially dumbass chat, and here we are. It's hard, man. How do you
Numbers
figure
are
this stuff
tough.
out? But I had it still up. So when it comes to moving up, the Ravens, when they took Lamar Jackson,
Yeah.
we know they traded up to 32. They were at 52.
Wow.
So there was a fourth swap. They went from 125 to 132. So almost ignore that one. And they went from 52 to 32. All so that the Eagles could move up 7 spots. Oh, and the second was in there. Sorry. I was missing the second. So really it cost a second round pick to move up 20 spots.
That's a lot.
It's a future second. So they had
Future second.
they were at 52, they moved to 32 and basically traded a future second for their franchise quarterback. Obviously they
You
don't
can do
regret
for a
that.
quarterback,
Yeah.
and you can do that with how good the Ravens have always historically
Yeah,
been.
the future second probably ended up being, I don't know, 60.
60th or something like that.
Yeah.
If you're the Patriots, I don't think you'd trade a future second to move up to grab a wide receiver. But I think they do definitely have to obviously monitor the wide receiver board quite a bit.
Well, can I just jump in? Because the news yesterday that Schefter put out that Kayshon Boutte is apparently available via trade. And we were talking about that last night. And I wonder how much of that is tied. We've talked about it before. It's a crowded receiver room.
It is.
There's too many
And they're
guys
all
already.
just like kind of the same level of player.
Yeah, like you have Diggs, whether he's ready week 1, week 5, week 6, I don't know. And then you kind of have the veteran redundancy role in Bourne.
And Hollins.
Well, Hollins was just brought in, so you got to assume he's on the team, right?
Yeah, right.
Then you have Pop Douglas.
Yep.
Then you have last year's rookies
Yep.
in Baker and Polk. And you also have
Kayshon Boutte.
Kayshon Boutte. And it's just like they can't all make the team.
Right. There's too many already.
And then
if they draft a wide receiver, then there's like too many.
Then I tie into one of the first things Mike Vrabel said when he got here, which was we are removing entitlement from the organization. And all those younger guys, did Boutte say he's the best receiver in the league? Polk says he has the best hands. Baker said he's going to make people in wheelchairs stand up. There was a
He did
lot.
not say he was the best wide receiver in the league, but he did say that he was like on the sideline asking for the ball.
Oh, true. I got to talk to AVP more
AVP,
about getting me involved early. Which, like, I know it's fun to make fun of like overconfident athletes, but that's kind of how you get there.
Right. Yeah.
Like,
and
you gotta-
like Boutte was that guy in high school and at LSU. Like speaking of guys who produced right away, like that was Kayshon Boutte.
And I got crap for this last. Like, I thought he was pretty good last year. Like, I don't think he was great.
Yeah.
I don't think he was like special. But on a team that was bad, he was pretty good. It was tough to produce in that environment, and he ran some good routes. He had good hands. Not a great player, but I'd be surprised. I don't know about you. Like, they have to. You were getting into. They have to look at the receiver board for the draft.
Yeah.
Don't they have to clear out some space first?
They don't have to. I think that they could just wind up cutting one or two of those. Like with Kayshon Boutte, it feels a little bit like how Darius Slayton's just always on the trademark, like always a trade rumor guy for the Giants, where it's like, well, yeah, because he's a guy who catches like 500 yards a year every year. And like that feels like it could wind up being Kayshon Boutte's career, where like every year he gets 400 to 500 yards and he's like back on the trade block. But Boutte's an interesting player just because like he had such high potential. He was so good at LSU, but then he has this like terrible leg injury and never really looked the same until kind of last year. But you're still not looking at him last year and being like, that is the Kayshon Boutte that we saw in 2021 or whatever it was when he was at his peak. So with Boutte, there is that like, what if he somehow does at some point unlock that? But there hasn't been real signs of it in 2 to 3 years now at this point. I don't know.
Yeah, I'd be surprised, I guess, if they could trade him.
Well, yeah, because like, what are you getting for him? You're probably only getting like a 6th round pick for him, right?
And even then, are you?
Right. Yeah. Like who's looking at this year's draft and saying like we cannot get Kayshon Boutte in the 6th round?
Right.
I don't know if anyone is. So yeah.
Right. With 2 years already burned on a contract and
Right.
all sorts of, yeah, you would want to get a new player into your system and make him yours.
I will say that Kayshon Boutte is still like very young.
He's 22.
He's 22. It's pretty crazy. Yeah.
He would be probably what? Right in the middle of I guess he'd be an older player in this year's draft, but not the oldest.
Kind of like I think Jaden Higgins turns 23 in December.
Boutte turns 23 in
23
May.
in May. So that's yeah. You would look at him and say like, yeah, Jalen Noel turns 23 in September. So he would be a slightly older player in this draft. He would have been a 5th year senior before declaring. But that's not that unusual, especially with like COVID and everything like that. Like Tyler
Right.
Show is like going to be 26. So yeah.
Yeah.
So
There
I don't
you
know.
go.
Yeah. I do have to get out of here soon. Are you a Last of Us guy?
I am. I haven't watched this week's episode yet,
Okay.
and apparently it's a humdinger, so I got to get on that.
It's a humdinger. You should watch that after our show wraps up. Yep.
Well, the thing is, it's school vacation week, so I don't have my private TV time, and though I'm going away. You know what? I'll download the episode and I'll watch it on the plane tomorrow. And
That's a good call.
do you think it's one I shouldn't watch around people? Is it? I'm assuming someone dies, to be honest with you, based on the spoilers that I've encountered.
You could like turn your screen dark enough during certain moments that.
Oh, we've got some murder. One time I sat next to a woman on a flight, stranger. I think I was in the middle. No, I was on the aisle. She was in the middle, and her husband was like across the aisle. I don't know. And she watched this like super emotional Kate Hudson movie. I don't know what the topic was. And this woman is just bawling next to me, just like heaving, crying. And her husband's like,
No.
and I'm like, can we switch seats? Like, can you sit next to your wife as she watches this? I was watching some goofy movie, like, and she's watching some, and I'm just like, it was awkward.
That's tough. Yeah, I don't know if I think I had some like nonsense conversations to talk about, but I didn't wind up writing it down.
I finished the Mark
You're
Hoppus
leaving
book.
during the NFL draft, but you'll be back for Monday. Oh, we should. This is not so soon that I need to plug it off the top, but on Monday night, we're doing a post-draft live stream across a bunch of like YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, all those kind of channels to raise money for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. We have some pretty crazy guests on this
I heard you
thing.
got some big names.
We got some big names. I'm going to throw them out there right now. We're going to promote this at some point for real. We got Danny Kelly and Danny Heifetz of the Ringer Fantasy Show. We have Michael Hurley. We have Mina Kimes of ESPN. We have Jason McCourty, a former Patriots player, currently on ESPN, media superstar. We got Steve Palazzolo and Sam Monson of Check the Mike podcast. We've got Phil Perry, Taylor Kyles, Mike Giardi, Andrew Callahan and I are the ones hosting it. So we got some big names on there to talk about the Patriots NFL draft on Monday night. So make sure to pay attention to social media and tune in for that because it'll be a good time.
People like you, Doug. I've come to learn. You know, people just show up for you. So I'm
People say
honored.
yes, yeah. The event on Thursday night, we haven't talked about that. That was a lot of fun. We had David Andrews show up for that one. Demario Douglas was obviously scheduled for it, but David Andrews decided to show up on his own, which was really cool. And we raised a ton of money. It was a lot of fun. I hope you had fun.
I did. I was on the phone like the whole way down, and then talking to people in that environment was kind of loud. I kind of lost my voice by the time we went up there. So I not only did I have very little to say because I'm dumb, but I literally had little to say. So I hope I didn't ruin it for anyone.
You were also like at the end of the line of people answering, and like we should probably figure that out a little bit better by next year. We won't, but I'm saying that right now that we should. We're like
maybe just like limit it to
yeah. Not everyone has to answer every question.
Yeah,
because
it was just one question was like, do you think they'll trade the pick? And I was like 8th. And I was like, how could I say something a little different than anyone else?
And you can't. Yeah.
I nailed it, actually. I think everyone was very impressed with what I said.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. You were a superstar that night.
That was great, though. That was a good event.
It was.
Any event that gets me out of the house is a good one. So it was fun to be a part of it.
People seem to have fun. Like I said, we raised a bunch of money. So
Ooh, I
It was cool.
did do some damage with the pizza though. Like that set off a busy weekend of eating for me.
Oh, yeah, kind of did for me too. Where like usually I eat pretty healthy Sunday through Thursday.
Right.
And then on Friday and Saturday I'll be like, yeah, I'll like go out to eat and like have a 2,000 calorie meal at Chili's or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But then when you're eating a bunch of pizza on Thursday night and then you're like, well, Friday and Saturday night I certainly don't want to cook. And then
Hmm.
Sunday night or Sunday was Easter.
Yeah.
And then on Monday yesterday
Leftovers.
I had to go to the Cape. So yeah, it was a lot of eating this weekend, I will say.
And as you know, as I've publicized, lost a lot of weight recently, did a lot of
Yeah.
work over the past
Yeah.
couple of months.
Looking great.
Thank you. But the sugar that's
Mhm.
entered my house and then
Yeah.
my body over the past, like my realtor, great guy, brought over some cookies and sweets for my kids.
Wow.
There was a giant chocolate covered marshmallow that also was covered in sprinkles and a peep on top. And I was like, oh, I want to have a bite of that. I ate the whole, it's like I entered another dimension and I woke up and I was just holding a stick and I was like, oh God, like that. My people gave my baby candy. I obviously ate all of that.
Yeah.
It's,
For a baby.
it hasn't, like I need, and now I'm going on vacation. So like
Yeah.
next
That's
week,
tough. Yeah.
I need like a
Diet
detox.
starts Monday. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just it's tough. Like I have a sugar addiction that I like can't. If it's in my house, it's going down the hatch, and that's a problem.
I'm pretty bad about sugar too, and I have to leave soon. But yeah, like we went to the Cape because we had to do some stuff down there. And there's a donut shop called Hole in One in East Ham that we always go to. And like most people can be like, oh, I'll get one donut and I'll be good. But then I'm like, well, I want a donut now, but I also know I'm going to want something later. So then I usually wind up getting two things. And then, but it's like, why am I getting two donuts? So like,
Well,
that's
here's
just
the
ridiculous.
no.
It's
I got you.
unnecessary.
I
Yeah.
got you. So we usually get like when we get like the nice donuts, we'll get like I don't know 6, so we can all
Right.
try. And you cut them into thirds or whatever.
Yeah.
So the key is if you cut them into thirds, you can have as many as you want
That is true. Yeah.
because it doesn't count.
No. Yeah.
You can eat the equivalent of 2 or 3 donuts,
Right.
but if you eat them in
Eating them in
thirds,
thirds. Yeah.
it's like free calories. It's a little hack. It's a life hack.
I will say that I was a little bit of a health nut. I got a cinnamon donut, but then the other item that I got was a corn muffin. So that's vegetables. So I
Yeah.
was, that's I was eating the corn muffin on the way home, and I was like, you know what, this is basically a healthy snack at this point.
Between that and your orange Celsius, you were pretty much just like emitting health.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Look at that.
Corn, famously the most healthy vegetable,
I watched how it's
especially in
made.
muffin form.
I watched how it's made because you know how you eat corn tortillas sometimes and you're like,
Yep.
what does that mean? I watched how they make it on how it's made.
Yep.
They make it out of corn. True
Wow.
story. Yeah.
Just smash up the corn, fry it up.
I guess final question, Doug. Draft who would you draft? A flour tortilla or a corn tortilla? Don't get this wrong.
Oh man, that's really tough. Because I feel like I'm gonna sound like a dumb American if I say a flour tortilla, but a flour tortilla is more versatile. So I'm
Flour
going flour
tortilla.
tortilla.
Flour tortilla is heaven on earth. Like,
Yeah, like it,
sorry.
it if I like there's definitely a role for both. Like if I'm having a street taco and you give me a flour tortilla, I'm gonna throw it in your face and say, "What are you giving to me? This is
Or
ridiculous."
or if you're feeling frisky and want a crunchy, I mean, obviously that's corn.
Right. Although a crunchy flour tortilla sounds pretty delicious.
I mean,
Uh,
the greatest piece of culinary accomplishment we've ever seen is the cheesy gordita crunch, which would be your hard
Yeah.
corn tortilla wrapped in cheese and a flour soft tortilla.
Yeah.
So
And it really did also fix the issue of a corn or of a crunchy corn tortilla falling apart because
Right.
there's something to keep it in place. But no, it's a ridiculous thing to say, but you get more out of the flour tortilla. You get a burrito, you get a quesadilla. You can make enchiladas out of a flour tortilla. You get the traditional soft taco from Taco Bell. Whereas with a corn tortilla, you're basically going street taco, hard shell, maybe birria, which I do like a lot. And you can make enchiladas out of a corn tortilla, but I think that more often than not, I'm eating a flour tortilla.
there's something like if I make peppers, right, and just they end up in a flour tortilla, the way that the spicy goop gets on the flour tortilla
Yeah.
and
Soaks it
enhances
up.
it. Oh, it's just a dream. So good
Yeah,
good
whereas, like,
answer.
a corn tortilla soaked up like that is just going to break.
Mm-mm.
It's not the same. Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, we're a couple of dumb Americans, so you already knew that though. And we're We're gonna get out of here.
I like a cheeseburger burrito.
You're back on Monday?
Monday, yeah. I booked a vacation exactly around the NFL draft. But it's okay because I don't have as many. I just have this podcast, really. So while we may suffer, you can do your job better. You can thank your bosses. Your bosses can thank me.
I'm doing a podcast with Andrew on Saturday morning. We might just have to double post that one as a Pats chat and as a Pats interference.
I'll call in from the beach.
Yes, there we go.
And I'll be like, "What'd they do last night? I don't know. I was eating."
All right. Well, I got to go. I'll talk to you later. Subscribe, rate, review, do all those fun things. Goodbye.